Manners maketh man.
Huge IQ, great performance at school, but you gave up. Drugs, petty crime, never had a job. It set you on a certain path, but you needn't stay on it.
Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my theological analysis for Kingsman, the Secret Service. I am really excited for the Golden Circle. I hadn't seen Secret Service in a long time, so I was just super excited to go back into it, watch it again, and just dig deep into it and talk about it with you. So let me know in the comments right now, are you excited for the Golden Circle? Now, digging deep into Kingsman, the Secret Service, what this movie really is about, it's a redemption story. Eggsy being redeemed from his old life and being brought into this new life as a gentleman. But it's more than just a redemption story. It goes deeper than that. It's about our choices when it comes to redemption. You see, Eggsy, in a very real sense, is a victim of circumstance. His dad was killed in action. He had no choice or no say in that. It left a vacuum in his family. His mom married an incredibly abusive guy, and the whole situation is continuing to get more and more negative. He now has this half-sister, and he feels compelled to take care of them. That in itself is a good, but all of this stuff were things outside of his choices, outside of what he could choose to do, so he is, in a very real sense, a victim of circumstance. And what we find is, almost like a suit, he puts on that mantle of victim, and he wears it. And what really brings this out is when Eggsy gets bailed out by Harry, and they have a conversation in this pub. So when Harry's having a conversation with him, he's like, I've read through your file, and he's like, your gymnast coach said 2 years in a row, you winning all these awards, you were Olympic team material, and you just quit? And Eggsy's like, well, yeah, when your stepdad's a total jerk like mine, you begin to get some new hobbies. And that's when Harry looks at him and gave this challenge, and he's like, oh, okay. So blaming somebody else for your choices. Now, clearly that made Eggsy really, really mad. But then Harry goes on, and Harry brings up the fact that you were in the Marines, and you were halfway through your training, and they said you were absolutely excelling, and then you quit? And then Eggsy blames somebody else. He goes, well, my mom panicked, because, his dad was killed in action. She didn't want to relive that fear and that pain with her son. So it seems very valid. So he made a choice and he quit. Now, the gymnast route, the Marine route, these were doors. These were pathways to get him out of the muck and mire that he was in and to set his feet on solid rock. And from that position of solid rock, he could do more for his mom and his sister than he could in the miry clay. But something inside of him continues to pull him back. He makes a choice to continue to pull back. Is he a victim of circumstance? Yes. But even in those bad circumstances, he still has the ability to make choices. And in his mind, those choices are small and they're limited. And he lets that be an excuse to continue to pull back. So when Harry comes into his life, Harry now offers a new choice. Come with me and become a Kingsman. And this time, Eggsy takes that choice. He walks through that door to become a Kingsman. And the whole idea of becoming a Kingsman is about becoming a gentleman. I mean, they talk about that line, or they say that quote over and over again. Manners maketh man.
Manners maketh man. Do you know what that means?
And I feel like that quote gets really clarified in another conversation between Harry and Eggsy when Harry basically says to Eggsy, being a gentleman has nothing to do with accent. It's about being at ease in one's own skin. As Hemingway said, there is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is being superior to your former self. So right here we see that being a gentleman is not about being a snob and thinking you're better than everybody, but it's about self-improvement. It's about self-betterment. It's about being at ease in your own skin. In other words, having that peace inside and making choices and living life out of that peace. And that's a whole different thing. It's different than wearing the victim mentality. Now, here's where there could have been some disillusionment, because right when Eggsy made a choice to start a new life for himself, and he stepped into the path of becoming a Kingsman. Now, all his old life, while he's wearing that victim mentality, He's constantly going through tests and trials. He's being talked down to and abused by his stepdad, being beat up and abused by his stepdad friends. But what these tests and trials do is they enforce the victim mentality, and they continue to take Eggsy's face, really, and just press it deeper and deeper into that mud. I mean, it's constantly tearing down his self-image, and it's making that situation worse. The disillusionment could come when he becomes a Kingsman and he's going through the training to be a Kingsman, and there are so many unbelievable tests and trials along that road. Now, granted, this is a spy movie, so of course, as he's training to be a spy, yeah, we already know training to be a spy. What on this freaking earth could be easy about that? He jumps out of a plane, man. Oh my gosh. And the idea that somebody doesn't have a parachute, I would have thrown up, and that throwing up would have just gone out and back up in my face. I mean, there would have been nothing good whatsoever about me jumping out of a plane. The point is, every bit of their trials and testings, it was difficult. And sometimes when we choose to follow Jesus, when we choose the redemption of letting him into our lives, the disillusionment could come because we think that now that he's in our lives, everything's going to be all sweet by and by. But no, even when we have Jesus as Lord of our lives, we encounter trials, we encounter tough times, and it stinks. And sometimes it might feel like, well, this is no different than my other life, but there is a difference when we have Jesus in our lives, because the difference is this. Whenever Eggsy had chosen to put on that victim mentality and pulled back and was in his old life, every bit of those tests and trials made things worse. Now, when he chose to be a Kingsman, the tests and trials were different. They were training him to be a gentleman. They were conforming him into the image of a gentleman. So really what it was doing was, it was making him a better person. A verse I used to hate in the book of James, James says, consider it pure joy when you have trials of various kinds. And he's talking about a point of view. I used to hate that because who likes going through trials of various kinds? Nobody. But he's talking about how when you have that faith in God and that relationship with God, then the testing of your faith produces endurance. And then let endurance have its perfection because it makes you a more mature and complete person. In other words, when we put Jesus at the center of our lives, even when we go through tough times, we start to learn how to rely on him. We start to learn how to rely on his power and his strength. And as we begin to rely on that, it continues to make us stronger because we learn how to trust him better. We begin to see more and more what he can do, and it begins to put peace in our hearts. We get more and more conformed to be like him, who was so comfortable in his own skin that he's on a boat and there's a squall. The disciples think they're going to die, but he's asleep. And when he wakes up, he just calmly tells the storm to be still, and it's still. That's the image that we are getting conformed to be more and more like when we have that relationship with Jesus. So rather than the trials pushing our head down into the mud, God is good, and he walks with us, and he gives us victory. And as we learn to walk with him and trust him and make choices to put on the new man instead of choices to put on that victim mentality, we get conformed more into that image, and it makes us stronger and better. And so finally you get to the end of this movie, and you have Samuel L. Jackson who's about to, hit the button to release the waves from his SIM cards and everybody's phones to make everybody go crazy and kill each other and, think he's saving the earth somehow. Eggsy arrives and he has to go in there undercover, and he puts on the suit that Harry had made for him. And when he puts on this suit, the movie pauses for just a moment where we have Eggsy and Merlin kind of marvel at how good he looks in the suit. But not just how good he looks in the suit. It's not just how good he looks. It's the mentality that came over him.
Looking good, Eggsy.
Feeling good, Merlin.
It's as if at this moment he was comfortable in his own skin when he put on that suit, that he really put off the old man. And there's this whole big circumstance going on. He put on the new man, and now he was able to step out in this ease of skin and take care of this situation. And I think that's just a great picture of taking off the old and putting on the new and letting God just conform us into stronger and better people. God's goal, he says, I have good plans for you, thoughts to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future. So when we begin to learn to trust God through those tough times and trust that what he says is true and trust his power in our lives, it conforms us to be a lot more like Jesus, getting more and more at peace and comfortable in our own skin. Is it a process? It is a process. Does it end all tough times in our lives? It does not end all tough times in our lives, but it produces a brand new result in our hearts and in our lives, making us more mature and complete people. So when you watch Kingsman Secret Service, what type of messages and things do you see in this movie? Be sure to let me know in the comments. While you're there, hit the subscribe button. Next to the subscribe button is the bell. Click it so that you are notified the moment I drop new videos. I do have a Patreon page, so if you like these theological analyses and other things I do here on Durbania, Patreon is a great way to support me, so you can check out the link to that in my description. Also, check out the other great videos I have here. Movie reviews, ranking videos, theological analyses, reactions, all kinds of things. So make sure you check out the other things I have here. I'm Durbin. Thank you for checking out Durbania.